Welcome. Today, joining us as always is my counterpart, Veronica Boudreau. Thanks so much for taking the time to be here, everyone. For today's session, I wanted to do something a little different. Rather than just walking through features, we're going to go ahead and look at some real live use cases. These are based on recent questions that have come up, and they highlight how ISI Analytics can guide you to the solutions you need. So as always, I'm going to talk about some rules. I know I do it every week, so you guys probably read them verbatim with me. But as always, there'll be time for Q&A following the presentation where you can ask any question regarding today's topic or our application in general. So you're always welcome to ask. Uh, we're going to have some other webinar housekeeping statements, which is I disabled the chat just to kind of keep it all focused in Q&A, so that it's split between the two modules. So to go ahead and if you'd rather ask your question in there, Veronica will be monitoring that, and she'll ask, or she'll even interrupt me and say, hey, like this came up and I think that's a great question. Can you answer that in the session? So go ahead and put your questions in there if you'd rather do that rather than the end of the session. And then what else am I missing? Once the presentation's over, you'll be able to unmute yourself and then just raise your hand in the module so that I can answer the questions in like an orderly fashion. Other than that, the recording, and as always, I am recording it, so it will go on our website, so you guys can review it later. But the Q&A section at the end is never put in there, so don't worry about like your questions being recorded. That is cut out, and I edited all that out away. So again, as always, thanks so much for being here, and let's go ahead and dive in. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch on over to our application. I'm in the analytics portion of our product, so I've logged in. As always, it's app.isianalytics.com where you log in. I'm sure you guys are all used to that now that you're logging in using the new URL. Let's go ahead, now that the housekeeping items are out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the real focus of today's session. As I mentioned earlier, I wanted to use this time to walk through some real life use cases, questions that we've been hearing recently from some of our customers. So these examples will highlight not just the questions themselves, but how ISI Analytics can help you uncover those answers. So let's dive into the first scenario that I have, which is, how would I see a report that can allow me to see how all of my calls are being routed into my queues? Also, are they calling directly, being forwarded from an auto attendant, or some other location? How can I report on this? Okay. My first solution is, obviously you can set up a donut widget in the new queue dashboards, right? So this is going to show you the queue source action. So I've gone ahead and I have my dashboard, although I don't need to. I'm going to save that. Thank you. And I'm going to keep it. I don't have to have it like expanded out to show the queues. We're just showing the sales demo queue. It is a Webex. I'm using a Webex data source, but this would also apply on Teams. And you'll notice here on the right, I've created a donut widget. Right now it's technically in a pie, but it could be a donut if you want. And right now it's showing me within the time frame, and I believe this is showing a month's worth of data for this particular queue, all the calls that have come in, where they've come in through. So 19 of our calls have come through an auto attendant. The other calls are all external parties, so they're coming in from other sources. So whether it could be inbound from like an extension, it could be just inbound directly. You'd see that. And then when we run, so the next part of this is not just the widgets, we also have reporting. So let's go ahead and take a step further, and we're going to use the queue detail reports to build a report on that queue to see all the different types in the report. So yes, you see it here. But let's go ahead and run. So I'm going to go ahead and I don't have to expand out to do this, but I do want to show you that I'm going to the report templates. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and run a new template. And from here, based on the information I have, this system uses more Webex. So I'm going to go ahead and do a Webex queue detail report. Okay. And from here, you have your standard, we've got our fields, we've got our filters. I could filter out specific queues, so I can want to see specific queues. So I can go to a filter and add a queue, but I'm actually just going to show everything. And what I'll do is I'll go to fields, And I am actually going to add a group by, because I actually kind of want to group by the different queues. I could lump them all into one, but I'm going to add a queue as a grouping option. So I'm going to drag that in here so we can actually kind of see it broken down. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and run this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to be like a 30-day run. So I'm going to click the last 30 days and just view this information. So we're going to run. So I might have done that a little fast. We're just going to run that with 30 days. And what you're going to see here is we've got all the queues in the product, and we can actually kind of take a look at that. So here's the sales demo queue. And the reason why it's breaking it down like this is because that is why I selected queue as a group by, so that in the preview, you can actually see the different queues. So I can go ahead and see the 27 sales demo queue calls, and I can expand that out. And from here, you're going to see all the calls in the last month, starting on 8/29 and 9/15, and so forth. You're going to see the numbers that have dialed in. You're going to see the source action, so an inbound call. They were transferred from an auto attendant, and so forth. You would actually see, the different source actions and then the source. So here's the test, for our test data, this is the test auto attendant. Or since it was just a direct inbound call to that queue, not going through the auto attendant, you're seeing the inbound call, and then the source is from that phone number. Okay, so you could also build reports specifically to show that. So if that's something you would desired. So if you wanted to go to filter and you wanted to do a source, you can either do source or source action. So I'm going to add either one. So the source action gives you drop downs. And so you could say, oh, I want to see all the calls that are transferred from an auto attendant or from the hunt group, or, whatever, default field that we get from your team, your phone system's information will send it. All the options are here. There's not like a custom field. You don't have to type anything in. All of the available options would be here for you to select. Whereas source, that's like phone number. But you could actually go down and say like type. I want to see the source type or whatever, and plug in, whether you want to see it from an auto attendant or whatnot. So that is how I would build a report. You could filter out which queue you're looking for. You could just remove all of these and say, I want to do queue, and look at your specific queue and then run it on, so here's the sales demo queue. Again, we'll run for the month. And again, we're going to see just that queue at this point. And then from this report, you're able to see, oh, come on. There, the source action and the source. Okay, so that kind of goes back to the question of how would I see a report that shows me how to see all my calls that are being routed into my queues, and are they calling directly, or are they being forwarded from an auto attendant? And this is going to give you that answer. Okay, and you can always export this to an Excel. Send to yourself either Excel, or you can do it as a CSV and have that data so you can start playing around with it and reviewing more information. Okay. So that kind of answers our first scenario of how do I see a report to show all the routed queues. The next question that I have gotten lately is, how do I see where multiple agents are being presented a call, but no one's answering, right? Kind of a pretty common topic for people to ask. And from here, I would say the solution as a graphical solution, something for you to kind of like higher view, see the data at a glance, and again, is going to use the queue dashboards. So we're going to go back into my dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going to save this report. I don't need it for now. We're going to come back to our dashboard. And we're going to look at the queues widget. So this is an agent widget. This is a donut widget. This is the queues widget. And that's going to show you the amount of unanswered calls, or like missed calls, right? And so when you drill in, you're going to see the details of those calls. So anything that highlights like this, you can drill in. So I'm going to go ahead and drill into the missed calls. And from here, you're going to see that information. So you're going to see, again, we're going to see the source, the caller that called in, the source action, where they're coming from, the source, and so forth. And you're going to see, that these were all either abandoned or forward. Okay. Now, when you drill into those on the left-hand side, you're going to see more information. Now, keep in mind, I have a caveat to say about this more information button at the end or relatively soon. If you click on this icon, it's going to show you additional details of this call, but what's important here is the presented agent. So on this particular call that called in, we can go to presented agents, and you're going to see the agent that either missed or took the call. Now, in this test data, you are only seeing one particular agent, but in a scenario of, say, another queue or your own data, and I've seen this in other customers, you might see where it's presented to 3 or 4 or 5 different people, and either it might not even be, you'll see presented agents even if the call isn't missed. You'll see it where it was picked up by, like, say, Isaac, and then the rest of the callers missed it. So the other people in your presented queue like were presented but didn't actually pick up because Isaac picked up on it first. But in this situation, if you had 5 individuals, you would see them missed by all of them. So you'd say, yes, this call came in, it went to all 5 of these agents and none of them picked it up. And they waited 6 seconds before they either hung up or whatnot. Okay. So that's the first way that I would do it. Now, the caveat I want to say is right now, the in the dashboards, when I drilled in here, so missed call, the icon on the left-hand side for more information is not present yet in the Microsoft Teams data, but it's coming. They built it out when they did Webex. They built this out and saw it as a great feature, and it is coming now to Teams, and that will be in before the end of the year. So that will be available for you to look at if you happen to have a Teams environment and want to see that information. It will be there soon. Okay. All right. So another solution to this, the same question of if multiple agents are presented a call but no one answers, also is going to be to use a report. And so what I'm going to go back into is, again, Hamburger, or I can just go to report templates here. And we're going to go to new template. And because I'm dealing with Webex data, I'm going to go ahead and stick with Q detail report is where I'm going to go. And I'm going to use the filter. Filter specifically on disposition, because disposition will give me the option to say, do I want answered or do I want missed? So I'm going to select missed. I'm going to go ahead and run this again. We don't have to make any other changes. I'm going to, again, run it for 30 days and need to no other changes all day, every day, and run. And from here on the right-hand side, so we've been looking at the left here. We've been seeing the source action and where they're coming from. But since they're missed, we're going to see the handling action. And if we scroll to the right, we actually see the final action. So in this situation, you're going to see the I'm kind of jumping ahead. Sorry, that's the next question. So you're going to see here, when you do missed, if you see the calls coming from and how long or the wait they had. So you can actually see the wait time. So you can see 6 seconds, 56 seconds, 36 seconds. They never had any talk time, and the handling action is that they were abandoned or they were forward. Okay. So here you also would be able to see the agents that would handle that or have missed them. So on the left-hand side, the more information is also available by selecting it and seeing presented agents. And then depending if there was a presented agent or not, you would see that listed. So like I said, some of this is test data. So let me go ahead and find, there we go. So missed agent, so Justin, and so forth. So, okay. All right. All right. So that is the, how do you see your, what agents miss those calls? And I would run the report, or I would use the queue dashboards to do so. Okay. All right. So now that I know we have missed calls in our queue and all of my agents missed those calls, what is there an easy way for me to see how the calls ended? Okay, so staying in this queue detail report, which is where I'm at, you can see within the fields call final action. This is why I happen to jump ahead. Call final action. Okay, But you can also show final destination as well. So it also would benefit you, again, to filter on disposition of missed. So come back here, disposition of missed, to then when you run this report, only see your missed calls. And again, you're gonna see the final action. So you're gonna see abandoned by caller, or you say if it was not abandoned and it was forwarded, where it went. Did it get forwarded to the voicemail? Did it get sent to, the main site voicemail? Or so forth. And so you're going to have, was this forwarded on to another user and then it was sent to the user? You'll see where it goes. Okay. So that is how I would build a report out to kind of show where all of these missed calls, where they end up. Are they being abandoned? Are they being forwarded? Are they answered by voicemail? Do they go another? Are they going to another queue? Whatnot. Okay. And like I said, let's see. The other thing you can do, and right now this is available in Webex, the Webex queue reports is then in the more information, there's actually a transfer path, and that information is going to show you when the calls come in, where they've gone. So this is the cradle to grave information. So where they've come into, where they got transferred to again, and where they, if they forwarded a voicemail and then caller left voicemail, and the whole time they were on the call. Okay. And right now, Cradle-to-grave is available for Webex. Teams, it's coming as well by the end of the year. So this transfer path will be available for those systems as well. So if you happen to have Teams and you're looking for this, it's not there yet, but it will be. Okay. So those are the 3 questions. Hopefully I answered them or explained them well enough for everyone to kind of get an idea of how you would utilize the differences between the dashboards and or the report templates